Alright, so we're out here today feeding bees. To let you take a look at what I got in the back of my truck, I've been to my supplier to get this sugar syrup. So I got buckets here, I got buckets down here. It is now August. I believe it's August the 23rd. Yeah, it's August 23rd. It's a Friday. And we're feeding bees. So I fed bees the last time. It's 2 weeks ago. It was on August, I guess, 23rd. I guess it was on August the 9th. It was a Friday. I fed bees. We're in Cleveland County, North Carolina. You can look that up. It's in climate zone 7. And we put on pollen patties and 1 gallon of sugar syrup, like a 2-to-1 or 3-to-1 syrup, because now it's August, we're getting ready for the winter time. And you're probably thinking, pollen patties, are you kidding me? A lot of people in North Carolina are probably thinking, pollen patties, are you kidding me? Yes, we fed pollen patties. You kind of got to look at the bees, you got to look at what you're feeding, the size of what you're feeding, to determine how much you need to feed. But most of my hives, I put on a ½ pound. It didn't really matter the size of the hive. It was primarily because I only had enough pollen patties to do a ½ pound and feed everything. And they done really well. So you're probably wondering, well, how did you keep the small hive beetles out? Well, I'm going to show you the trick. A lot of people on YouTube talk about tricks and they say, oh, I'm going to show you. Well, I'm going to show you what I did and what I have been doing and the way that I feed these pollen patties, and I pretty much eliminate all the small hive beetle problems. Now, I'm not saying you're not going to have some worms. You have to understand that, you know, some worms are normal, but it's very minimal. And then the vast majority of my hives, now granted it's been 2 weeks, I was at the beach last week, so I didn't have a chance to come back and check quickly. But I've been checking hives, and I mean, I've even had hives that only had 3 frames of bees, 3 deep frames, and no worms. They eat all the patty, and I'm going to show you how we did that. So let's get some stuff together here. I'm going to open up a hive and I'm going to show you what I did. Alright, so let's take a look at this one. This is a little bit bigger of a hive. Ta-da! This is what we did. So I fed pollen patties to all my bees, and I've been thinking and thinking, what in the world can I do to feed these pollen patties and keep these small hive beetles from just filling it full of maggots and overtaking my hives. So what I did was I took I got them from Man Lake. I got the 1 pound Ultra Bee patties. I bought like a 40-pound box. Or I bought a couple 40-pound boxes earlier in the year, but I had some left. I took a patty and I tore it in half, so it made a ½ pound. Every single hive, I put a 1/2 pound patty on top of the bars between boxes. Then I took a swiffer sheet, one of the dry swiffer sheets. You know, you hear everybody talking about putting swiffer sheets in your hives to trap small hive beetles. Well, I got to thinking, if they trap small hive beetles, and then that's great. So that's one way to eliminate small hive beetles. But pollen patties attract small hive beetles. So why don't we take the pollen patty and put it in the hive, on top of the top bars, over the brood nest where the bees can get it, And then we take a swiffer sheet and we lay the swiffer sheet right across the top of the pollen patty. So the bees get the pollen from the pollen patty, they get all the nutrition, and the swiffer sheet, it kind of covers the top of the patty, so that kind of eliminates about half of the surface of the patty that the small hive beetles can get to. And then when the small hive beetles, attracted by the patty, come to the patty to try to eat it, then they get trapped. And you can see all the small hive beetles. And then if we look underneath, we got a few dead bees. We got a lot more small hive beetles trapped. And you can see the bees were able to eat all of that patty. So that's what we did. So this is a little bit bigger of a hive. So, you know, this hive here, you might say, oh, well, it's a strong hive. So now what we'll do is I'm going to, if I don't trip and break my neck, I want to go down through here and I'll shoot a few clips from some of these smaller ones. Some of these hives down through here, these little medium 4x4s I've got, they've got supers on them, but see, some of those supers really don't even have any bees in them. So there are 3 or 4 medium frames of bees, and I put a ½ pound patty on all of those too, so we'll see how some of these weaker ones do. Alright, so here's one, little small one. You can look up here in the top, not really any bees in the top box. Got this bottom box here, and had a ½ pound pollen patty on here, and we put the a whole swiffer sheet over it. You can see you got hive beetles on it. And here is our pollen patty. So they're still working on this pollen patty. But there's not a huge mass. Look at all the small hive beetles though. We effectively, hang on, I gotta get my sunglasses off because they make it where I can't see out this lens of this camera. So we effectively enticed the small hive beetles to come to the patty, and then when they did, we trapped them and allowed our bees to, there is some worms right there in that one, but we allowed our bees to eat the patty. So you can see I flipped up that one. That was on top of the top bar so they couldn't get to it. But you can see there's not a bunch of worms there. There's not a bunch of worms there either. So there is hardly any worms at all. What we'll probably do is take this. There's just a few worms right here in this one little old spot. What I might do is just take and scoop that off and throw it to the side. But you've got a box that's got 4 medium frames of bees, and they are able to eat a ½ pound of pollen without getting slimed out. It's working pretty good. So let's check out this other side. Let me close this side up and get them fed. So this hive here, a little bit bigger. We look down here, we have bees up here drawing out comb. And here is our ½ pound of pollen and our full swiffer sheet. Bunch of small hive beetles. And as you can see, the bees have been able to eat almost that whole ½ pound with very, very few worms. So I mean, if you look at that patty, it's not crawling with worms. I see one. So it's working really, really well. This is a great trick if you are in an area with small hive beetles. But see, we're in a pollen dearth right now. So we're in an area with small hive beetles. We need to feed pollen, but we don't want to get our hive slimed out. ½ pound of pollen patty on these little boxes here with a whole swiffer sheet over the top of it. We're killing mites, we're feeding bees. This is great. So here's your secret. This is the big secret. If you want a way to feed pollen patties and not get taken over by small hive beetles, actually eliminate your small hive beetles, this is the way to go.
Daddy, I'm ready to feed my hive.
You're ready to feed your hive. You got your sugar water in that bucket, but you don't have on a veil, you got on flip-flops. You want me to do it? No, you're gonna do it yourself? Well,
I'm just gonna pick out what type I want.
okay. Well, we're gonna have to get you some protective clothing on. All right, we're back.
Hey, I'm gonna have to take this off.
No, you ain't taking that off. That keeps your head from getting stung. Just hold it the best you can. All right. All right, come on. You and your flip-flops. That's not very good, but come on.
I'm gonna need a little hive.
Okay. All right, let me see. I need to move my glasses. Slide this board right here. All right, Knox. Let me have this. I'm gonna put your bucket on the hive. Let me get you. Oh, you're getting heavy. All right. So, you gotta try to pour this bucket in that little black feeder down there.
I'll try.
Oh, hold it. You hold it. All right.
In that one?
Mm-hmm. Pour it in that black. There you go. Good job. We need to give them some more. Here, set your bucket down there. Because that's not enough. It's not enough.
Pour some in mine.
Hang on, let me help you. You don't want to dump it in there. All right. We're going to fill it up. Oh, hang on. Whoop, a little bit too much there. Hang on. Whoa, you're missing the... There you go. Now dump it. Just fill it up to the top of the feeder. A little bit more. That'll work. We just need a little bit more here. You hold your bucket. I'm going to put the rest. I'll cap them off for you. Alright, they're full. Now we got to put this stick here. The stick fell out when I was doing the video earlier. Will you lay that stick in the top of that water?
Wait, on the top?
Yeah, just drop it in the water. Alright, let's make sure it's here. There we go. That'll keep them from drowning. Good job, buddy. You fed your hive. Give me a thumbs up. Thumbs up. Knox, well, you're not even a 4-year-old beekeeper, Knox. You're not going to be 4 until Thursday.
Well,
next Thursday. So
this is my bee suit.
This is your bee suit. Here's yet another one. Not a super strong hive, but it's okay. These are deeps. They've got about a frame of bees up here in the top super. But look at all these hive beetles. Now we do have some worms here and there, but look at the hive beetles on this swiffer sheet. Absolutely annihilated them. Now see, you can see we got some worms here. Like I say, that's nothing compared to what it could have been. And you can see this was a ½ pound patty, and the bees pretty much got to eat all of that patty, and that's the main thing. The bees will deal with a few little worms here and there, but getting to eat that protein when they really need it right now is a huge deal. And then look at all the hive beetles. So when you think of this many hive beetles and that many worms, you can see this is definitely works. I mean, this is kind of an extreme case of the hive beetles. I normally don't have this many in a box, but when I've got that many hive beetles on that swiffer sheet and I've only got this tiny bit of worms here, there's some more, then I think that's wonderful. Alright, so this is another one here, a little bit bigger. You can see they've got comb drawn out up here. Can't really even see out the top of the box very well, because we got quite a bit of bees up there, quite a bit of bees here. And again, we had a ½ pound of pollen, swiffer sheet. There's a few little worms there, but they're dead. They're stuck in the swiffer sheet. There's a little piece of the pollen patty there. No worms there. Tons of small hive beetles. And there you go. So, whew, I'm about to burn up. It's about 100 degrees. I think you get the point though. We can feed small hive beetles, or we can feed pollen patties even though we have small hive beetles. The trick is, or at least my trick is, the way I'm doing it is, you got to look at what you have. These are smaller hives, and as you can see, the bigger hives like this one that I just checked, you know, they're going to eat the whole patty. You're going to come back, you're not going to have any small hive beetle worms, nothing. You're just going to have a bunch of small hive beetles in your swiffer sheet, and you're going to have bees that are a lot better fed because they're going to have all that protein. Some of these smaller boxes that we looked at, you know, with say 3 medium frames worth of bees, we got to feed those a half of a pound of pollen patty, and we still had, in my opinion, minimal small hive beetle worms compared to the amount of small hive beetles that we caught. So it's kind of a I guess like a two-phase thing. It's kind of a 2-for-1 special. You can trap a lot of small hive beetles out of your boxes, and you can also feed your bees pollen patties. So again, all I did, I took the Ultra Bee pollen patties. For in this case, I ripped the pollen patty in half. I took 1 full swiffer sheet and just laid the swiffer sheet right over the top of the pollen patty. Now I tore the paper off the bottom, so you know the pollen patty has a wax paper on both sides, and I pulled the wax paper off of one side, put the pollen patty side down. I guess you could have left the paper on there, and that may have prevented some of the small hive beetle stuff, but I ripped the pollen patty in half, put it on top of the top bars, laid a swiffer sheet on top of that, and I either put the top or the other box on top of that, and it's worked really, really well. North Carolina, feeding pollen patties in August. Everybody says you can't do it. I'm proof that you can. Y'all have a good one.